Talking to developers sometimes feels like speaking a different language. Whether you're a project manager, a business executive, or just a non-technical person working with a dev team, misunderstandings happen all the time. As a developer myself, I've seen both sides of the coin. So let's talk about how we can bridge the gap and make communication smoother. So why does it sometimes feel that developers and non-developers are speaking different languages? It's not that developers are trying to be cryptic on purpose. It's just that we are trained to think in systems, constraints, and edge cases. Everything is interconnected. Every feature affects 5 others. Meanwhile, non-tech people often think in outcomes. Does it work? Is it ready? Can we launch? This gap in perspective often leads to miscommunication, even if everybody is working towards the same goal. Here's an example. Imagine asking a chef to cook a dish, but instead of just cooking, he explains every ingredient, the chemistry behind it, and how every small tweak affects the entire flavor profile. This is how it sometimes feels for developers when asked, why is this small feature taking so long to add? It's not resistance, it's just a different lens. And part of this disconnect comes down to language. Terms that I use casually in everyday conversation often have a very specific meaning in programming, like dynamic, responsive, or interactive. To a developer, those are technical terms. To a non-developer, those are just adjectives. So we might be using the same words and still be talking about completely different things. None of this is about who's right. It's just two different mental models. Developers are trained to think in logic and constraints, while business folks are trained to think in goals and outcomes. Recognizing this difference is the first step towards a better communication. The classic. Can we make it faster? Well, faster how? Page load speed, backend processing, the UI transitions. Without context, a dev might spend hours optimizing the wrong thing. Instead, try something like this. Our users are saying that our checkout page feels slow. Great. This gives us something to work on. We can check Lighthouse scores, see how the page performs under throttled network conditions, and compare load times across different regions. Suddenly, we're solving for the actual problem instead of guessing. Another one. Can we launch this next week? Maybe, but probably not, since we're still scoping the work and haven't seen the final designs yet. Setting timelines before asking for estimates puts pressure on everyone. And when that pressure builds up, quality takes a hit. Instead, ask what would be a realistic time to ship this. This opens a door to a much better conversation. And when the developer says 2 to 4 weeks, don't just take the 2 and start planning your release around it. That's usually the best case scenario. If nothing goes wrong, there's no blockers, no scope creep, and so on. Realistically, you'll be better off if you take the higher range of the estimate and even add a buffer on top of it. If you want a rule of thumb, take whatever estimate the developer gives you and multiply it by 2. And I'm just half joking. Sometimes someone will say, why can't we just add this? As if the thing lives in a vacuum. But in most code bases, everything is interconnected. Adding a new feature often means revisiting old logic, updating tests, adjusting the database schema, and making sure nothing else breaks. It's like asking to add a second floor to a house without checking if the foundations can handle it. Technically possible? Sure, but not without some serious inspections. And this usually happens when requests come without business context. If you're asking for a change, even a quick note like, this would help us reduce customer drop-off at checkout, would give us the why. And this why helps developers prioritize and problem solve with you, not just for you. Now, this one is sneaky. When non-tech people use development terminologies such as dynamic, responsive, or component without fully understanding them, it actually creates more confusion. You might say, make it more dynamic, meaning make it more exciting. But what the developer might hear is add client-side rendering, which is a completely different thing. It's totally okay not to use the quote-unquote right terminology. In fact, it's much better to describe what you want in plain language than to accidentally send the wrong signal. Instead of "can we make it faster?" say "our checkout page feels slow. Users in Asia are reporting 5+ second load times." This is actionable. It gives us direction and tells us where to start digging. And don't worry if you don't know the right technical term. Just explain the problem as clearly as you can. A good developer will translate that into a right solution. Instead of "can we make it by Friday?" ask what would be a realistic delivery timeline. Or even better, ask what risks and dependencies could affect that timeline. You will get much better visibility, and the developer will appreciate being treated like a partner rather than a feature factory. Looping in developers after a feature is fully spec'd and signed off is like inviting someone to dinner after you've already ordered for them and then wondering why are they not thrilled about the salad. Bring developers to the conversation earlier, when ideas are still forming. You will avoid a lot of rework and might even get technical input that improves the solution before it's built. If a developer explains something and you're not sure what it means, ask. A good developer doesn't mind explaining, especially if it leads to better teamwork and fewer misunderstandings later. It's way better to ask early than to assume and end up misaligned down the road. So, to sum it all up, developers and non-developers don't struggle to communicate because they're on different teams. They struggle because they are operating from completely different mental models. Developers think in systems, edge cases, and dependencies, while business folks think in outcomes, timelines, and customer impact. Both are essential. The magic happens when the two sides actually understand each other. Avoid vague requests. Don't rush to set deadlines without context. And if you don't know a technical term, that's okay. It's not your field. It's actually way better to describe what you mean in your own words than to use technical terms such as responsive or normalized without being sure. Clearer communication leads to fewer misunderstandings, better collaboration, and, let's be honest, fewer passive-aggressive Slack posts at 5 p.m. on a Friday. If you've ever had a hilarious or frustrating moment working with devs or non-devs, drop it in the comments. I would love to hear it. And if you found this helpful, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. I will be delving deeper into the tech-business crossover in the next few videos.